Hi, welcome to the Enovia Conversation. My name is Steve Waltz.
And I'm Jeff Progalski.
And we'll be your host for the podcast today. And so, Jeff, I think we're going to talk about a conference that you went to a couple of weeks ago. It's the Microsoft Business Apps Conference. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah, the Business Application Summit, actually.
Summit.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
It's a big deal.
They call it kind of the Biz Apps, right? Is this what they're going with?
Yes, I think the hashtag to follow is BIZAPPS.
And was that only mainly for like NAV or BC, or what is that for?
No, well, so the in terms of the Microsoft World Business Applications, start, I think, obviously with Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central and Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, but also the other associated products like Microsoft Flow, Power BI, Power Query, and as well as Power Apps. So all of those things with, pretty much anything that starts with a Dynamics 365 in front of it. So field service was there. There was a lot of augmented and mixed reality sessions. Actually, a bunch of cool stuff.
Oh, very neat. So was it just for partners, or who kind of went to this?
No, it was, it actually, in talking with, in terms of our Enovia team, I was joined by Tom and Chad, two members of our leadership team. And this was I believe it's the third BizApp Summit. And Tom went last year and was just, kind of, how Tom is. He's got this feeling that there's all this stuff going on that he doesn't completely understand, and wants another more technical person to join him. So he reached out to Chad and myself and to have us go with. So there are certainly a fair percentage of attendees were Microsoft partners, but there were also a lot of end users, because these applications, especially Flow and Power BI and Power Query, these are tools that Microsoft is putting in the hands of end users, as well as partners to leverage technology. So it was a good mix. I would guess, without seeing any numbers, it was probably about a third partners and 2/3 end users.
Wow. So a lot of end users.
Yep. And it was, I think I heard there was about 4,000 attendees. So it was, it took up two buildings of the Georgia World Conference Center. So it was a pretty big event. And for me personally, I wanted to brush up on my Power BI skills. So even though the event was just actually last Monday and Tuesday, June 10th and 11th, I went in a day early and attended a Power BI dashboard in a day conference, and found that extremely beneficial. So I was down there for 3 days, and it was a lot of information that was covered. We had it started with the keynote on Monday morning, bright and early, that featured James Phillips, who's the corporate vice president of Microsoft's Business Applications Group. So he went, I think, for about an hour and a half, talking about just roadmap sort of things, showed some cool technology stories with companies that have partnered with Microsoft to deliver some really cool solutions for their different businesses. And then they had a demo of their new HoloLens 2 mixed reality field service kind of app that was pretty cool. Unfortunately, the camera that Microsoft had invented to capture the mixed reality headset view of what's going on failed during the demo, so they had a pre-recorded session they flipped over to very quickly, which led me to believe that maybe they were having issues with that technology in practice. But the really cool thing about that, so it was a really impressive demo where they show someone wearing a HoloLens to following directions in in this sort of mocked up environment where they're attaching something to the wing of an airplane, and it's really, I mean, if you get a chance to look it up, you can search the BizApps 2019 keynote, and you can find it on YouTube and a bunch of Microsoft links. But they, in this environment, when you're looking through the lens, through the HoloLens, what you see from the person that's doing the actual work is just this amazingly detailed instruction of where the wire is supposed to be clipped, and there's multiple clips you can choose from, and the HoloLens view highlights the ones that you should clip it in, making it very clear which ones to avoid, and then you have to hand it through this cavity in this arm, and you can't see through it. So then you turn on this X-ray vision stuff where you can actually see what's inside without really seeing what's inside this, and shows you where to put your hands. And then you need to go get tools that are on the wall, and it has actually dotted lines through space that take you right to the exact tool you need to test, and it's pretty amazing. So it looked really cool when you saw that in the keynote, even if it was just on video. But then you had the opportunity to go on the conference floor. You could stand in line and actually participate and do that yourself. Put on a HoloLens 2 and go through that exact same scenario. And let me tell you, when you're doing that and seeing it for yourself, it was pretty amazing. And actually, Tom had started. He got in line and he said, "Jeff, you have to check this out." And he was right. I was when I saw it on stage, I thought, well, that's cool, but how is that going to apply to our customer base, and how can we at Innovia, as a Dynamics Business Central partner, how can we use this technology? Because it just seems like it's way out there. But when you see that in action for yourself, it's really a powerful story. And I think one of the underlying themes that came out of this conference is just that how everything is moving in that direction in terms of augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and how it's, because it has been embraced by the enterprise, eventually even things like hosted email and, those things, first of all, made sense for the big companies, and then they kind of those benefits trickled down to the SMB space. And I think we're at the edge of that time now, where we are going to start to see some really strong use cases for all of the latest and greatest technology in the SMB space going forward. So it was a lot of cool stuff there.
So do you think, with Microsoft kind of investing in all these resources, so, like our customers, a lot of them are smaller businesses, medium-sized businesses. And, as a let's say if I'm an owner of a business and I'm thinking, all right, I need to update my ERP system, or this is where my company's going. And, the questions, you talked how you went to a Power BI workshop early, and then you started talking about some of this, information. Where would you direct somebody like that to say, okay, I need to get up to speed, on where technology is going? Would this be a good place to go, or what would you point them to start researching that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. For people in the technology space, especially in the small to medium-sized business world, typically you're not able to just focus on wearing one hat. You're wearing multiple hats. So maybe, besides IT and keeping the ERP application running and supported, you're also troubleshooting email issues and network latency issues. So having the time to look ahead and see what's coming, so you've got a good lay of the land, is sometimes difficult. Certainly being plugged into the Microsoft Biz Apps world, whether it's through Power BI or Microsoft Flow or Power Query, that's a good place to start. There are groups on LinkedIn that help keep you plugged in. There's, the user group, whether it's the Business Central or NAV user group, or there's a Power BI user group. You can stay plugged in there, and certainly considering attending a conference or a summit like this is also pretty valuable. I mean, it's at some time, I mean, depending on where you are geographically, I think next year's 2020 summit is going to be in April, I believe, and I think it's in Anaheim, California. So geographically, if travel doesn't cost you a couple days, being able to swoop in and spend 2 days getting just a whole bunch of content, it allows you to kind of unplug from the office a little bit and focus on this. It's a really good investment. I believe that. The conference, it's a paid for conference, and I think it's $1,000 for 2 days. But at the level of presentation that you're getting here, having most of all sessions presented by Microsoft employees, some of the program managers, technical engineers that are integral in creating the software that we're all using. I mean, that's pretty powerful opportunities that you don't often get. So when you start to think about the different places that for IT and business leaders where you can attend conferences, certainly we would recommend that the user group summits are one of the most important ones. This Biz App Summit seemed to kind of replace the last time I was at a conference at the Georgia World Conference Center was the last time that Microsoft had Convergence there, and I'm thinking that's like probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe. And it had a feel sort of like that, where you had both partners and end users together. That Convergence seemed to be a little bit maybe too high level for me as a person who loves tech, whereas the business. Let me get this. You're supposed to help me with the hashtag, Steve. But the Biz App Summit is, that was a good mix of technical. They did have an executive track. Of course, I was kicked out of there. But
I heard that.
But honestly, it seems like a really good, like happy medium between seeing the high level stuff about what's coming down the pipe from Microsoft, as well as being able to get your hands dirty and mess with some technical stuff.
So it's kind of like the what and the why. So we're kind of talking about what it is, but the question that we get asked, and when I look at the Microsoft roadmap is the why. So like, why would they put this conference on? Why would you want to go to it, and why would a customer? So did you get a feeling? So what Microsoft's trying to do is get people thinking as a full business solution, right? So, in a dream world, when you go to your computer, there you go, you have your Windows Explorer, you have your Outlook tied into it, then you have your ERP system, and then all your apps, everything's just kind of working together in Azure. Is that kind of a message you're trying to get or trying to lead people to? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, that in terms of why you would want to be there, if all you are concerned with is if you're fortunate enough to only be concerned with getting invoices out, manufacturing, producing whatever it is your end product is or service, if you're able to focus on that and be successful and not worry about what else is going on in the world, then you're lucky. For the rest of us, I think it's really important to understand. I mean, we preach to our customers that the value, a fairly significant portion, I believe, of the value of being on the Microsoft platform is lies in how easily these other products like Power BI and Flow and Power Query tie into Dynamics 365 Business Central. So figuring out what these are and how you can use them, I think is an important part of getting the most value out of your investment in the Microsoft Dynamics space.
Very cool. So who would you recommend, like in our customer base or people, to maybe considering going to this in the future?
Yeah, so certainly IT people would benefit greatly from this. But again, as I said, Microsoft has a specific track for executives, and for executives who want to understand what is capable with the software that their company is running without having to understand how to create a Power BI report themselves. There was, one of the buzzwords that I heard several times repeated in keynotes and in sessions, is the term low code, no code. And that is, I don't know if that makes any developers nervous or if it makes developers laugh. But it's the idea that you're going to be able to accomplish to accomplish so much more in these business applications without needing a developer to do it. Like if you're going to use Flow to automate a process, you no longer have to, whether that's, creating an XML import into Dynamics 365 or there's all these different ways to do that don't require any code whatsoever. So kind of understanding what's possible is an important part of understanding what these apps are, how your company can benefit from them. So certainly IT, certainly executive leadership, and always the finance and accounting people, because they're the ones that, are always, I think in the old world, they came up with the business drivers and then, they could identify the data they needed, but they couldn't create the reports to make it useful to share within the company. So they relied on IT to do that. Now with these sorts of tools in people's hands, the idea is that maybe the finance and accounting people can create their own reports with just a little bit of training. And so pretty much that would be my recommendation. There's certainly, as you get into the possibilities of Dynamics 365 field service, and you've got operations people that could benefit from this, and that's just, I think, going to increase as this technology becomes more and more hands-on. So pretty much anyone at your company could benefit from this, as long as they've got the attention span to absorb this much data through a fire hose for 8 hours a day.
When you said the low code or the no code, I kept thinking, so you're the person, out of school that says, I'm going to go work at the toll road, right? Because they're going to need people to pay the money. All of a sudden you got displaced by, the electronic tolling, and you're like, I'm going to go work at a fast food restaurant. Everybody has to go there and buy fast food, and all of a sudden you got displaced by a kiosk. And now the people that made the technology, it's like you're going to need these people. So the tech data world that we live in and where it's going, it seems like if you can automate something or make it easier, it's kind of going that way. Is that what you? Did I make a fair analogy on that?
Yeah, I mean that is exactly it. And I was troubleshooting an email issue for a user over the weekend, and he expressed some he was just shocked at the fact that his iPhone could send mail but it wasn't receiving, and he's like, sometimes I think these software engineers design bugs right into the software, and just so support people have a career path. And I said, I'm not that optimistic.
Conspiracy theory, huh?
Right. Well, pretty much. I said, I'm not that optimistic that that anyone has that much forethought to design it. I think, people are just, we miss things occasionally. Human beings are imperfect. But I said, just wait. We're not too far off from bots and artificial intelligence and automated scripts creating all of the software that we are running on. And at that point, we're not going to have nearly the number of glitches that we do now. So I think that's in the not too distant future for us, especially in the Microsoft's world.
Well, very cool, Jeff. I'm glad you got to go with Chad and Tom. And is there anything else you want to talk about that conference?
Nope. It was like I said, there was a lot of information. They made announcements. They made announcements for the Power Platform Wave 2 feature set, which was like a new 350-page guide that hits on all the, I think people like our leadership team might have seen the first version of that at Directions a few weeks ago, but they released it to the public at this conference. There were, in terms of sort of major announcements, there were announcements about the like a facelift on Power BI and how they're kind of fine tuning the user interface. There's also a new Power Platform called AI Builder, which Microsoft is positioning as a low code, no code tool for more easily automating processes and predicting outcomes. So it directly integrates into Power Apps and Microsoft Flow. So that was something new. I think there was also the conference finished up with a wrap up from let's see, I think it was Alexis Ohanian, who is one of the creators of Reddit, which is, I think, if not the most popular site. I think it might actually be the third most popular website on the internet. So we heard some information from him in terms of his opinion on where the world is going, etc. And then it also featured Alyssa Taylor from Microsoft to kind of tie in all the Microsoft Power Apps and sort of Microsoft's vision of the future, and it aligns with what we've been telling our customers in terms of, one of the value statements of Dynamics 365 Business Central is that it puts so much power in the hands of the end user for you to, you can work with a partner, but there's a lot of stuff that you can do on your own if you have the expertise and time. So that was all really cool stuff. And having said all of that, I know that when I tried to flag you down for some help last week, you said, no, I'm too busy engaging with customers at a user group. So where were you last week? This was like Friday, right? This is hot off the presses.
Well, so yeah, I had a chance to go to the Southern Ohio meeting where Tana and her team had a great meeting. So they had somebody from Indianapolis who actually runs the Indianapolis Power BI like the Navog version chapter, and he's an expert out of Indianapolis and does some consulting. Did a great presentation, and what I got out of that presentation was how fast things are changing. He goes, "I could tell you something about Power BI and a setup today, and next month I could be a liar because it's it wasn't capable, but now it's capable." But there was a lot of attention on that, and I did a presentation. Actually, I'm doing a presentation for the Navog, or actually for all the user groups later on today, on is your sales pipeline real? More of a discussion on your CRM, but I did one there called Cracking the CRM Code, and it worked really well with that Power BI presentation, because it seems like owners of companies, sales managers, and people want to see if they're selling things, right? If people are behind on payments of things and all these dashboards. So there was a lot of interest, and the question that I like to ask is how many of you are using Power BI, or how many of you are using CRM? And I think it's under 20% in using relationship management. And I think as we're kind of going through this whole I don't know what the word would be, like, so how to use technology to help you sell more stuff, because one of the things that kind of came out in our discussion, Jeff, is that, what are companies in business for? What are the companies in business to do? It's like, it's okay, to make money, right? So it's almost like it's not front of the issue, but your goal is to make money, as a company. And how do you do that? You have to have product in the pipeline. You got to sell stuff and have a good customer experience in it. And we asked, how do you? I had a customer. I said, how many salespeople do you have? And I think they had 4. And I said, so you're not using any CRM? They said, no. I said, so what happens if somebody leaves and takes their little black book with them? Do you know anything, who they're talking to, whatever? And they kind of just paused for about, it seemed like an hour, right?
Like a deer in the headlights.
Well, so the reality is, so anyway, that's kind of was the presentation. And so I think, drawing awareness as what we do as a partner, as we're, working with our customers through their ERP journey, is not just to keep their system running, it's to help them see the future. And in this world where people adopt brands quickly and even drop them quicker, we kind of stay up to date. And it's an investment of your time and your resources. And that old break fix mentality, or if it's not broke, don't fix it. You could get by with it years ago, but that's just not working. So that's kind of why I asked some of the questions that I did about, how, like if I'm an owner or I'm an operations and I'm trying to say, okay, I might be lagging behind my competitors, or I want to get an edge and own my space. I probably need to get up to date on some of this stuff. So, but that kind of ties in with that. So, but it was a great meeting. And my brother lives close by, so I got to see him the night before. So it was all good.
Right on. Well, it is always it's always a plus when you have to travel for work, but you get to fit in a little family time as well.
That's right. So,
at least that's.
But hey, we appreciate you. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Are you still talking?
No problem. I like when you interrupt me.
That's right. So, Jeff's daughter's an intern now for us in our marketing department, and I was asking her the other day. I said, so how long does it take you to get the short answer from your dad? And she just kind of smiled.
Wow. Did she
in sales, Jeff, maybe in marketing, right? So
let's hope so. Did she pay you to roast me on the podcast just because of what I did to her on the staff meeting?
No. Oh, actually, I missed that part of the staff meeting, but I did get a kick out of it. I said, so have you listened to any podcasts yet? And she kind of looked at me. She goes, I'm going to listen to one today. Right. So we have another listener. Woo-hoo. Yeah, there we go.
We're up to we've cracked double digits. Watch out now.
We're outpacing our thing. So just to let all the listeners know that no one did email Boiler Up to me for the backpack. And so
it's still available.
So Angie asked me, she goes, did you give me your email address? I'm like, no. So if you email me, swaltz, WALTZ @Inovia.com, Boiler Up, which was a trivia question a while back. If you're the first one, you'll get a nice Inovia backpack. So Jeff, I think we're going to wrap it up. Anything else you want to add?
Nope. That is it for me.
Well, great. Well, we appreciate you listening. And remember, you can always follow us on LinkedIn. We're on Twitter. You can go to our website, Inovia.com, and see the most current events. Until our next episode, have a great day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.